At the probate hearing, my father looked proud. "You'll never touch that money again." My sister added, "That's right." My mother smiled. "He doesn't deserve a cent." The judge opened my letter, scanned it, then laughed hard. He said quietly, "Oh, this is good." They looked terrified. "My name's Gary. I'm 36, a locksmith, and apparently the reliable son in my family. If a key snaps in a lock at 2 a.m., I'm the guy who shows up with a toolbox and coffee breath. I've been picking locks since I was a teenager, riding in the passenger seat of my dad's old van while he lectured me about hard work and loyalty. Now I own that van. I own the business. I pay my own rent, my own insurance, my own everything. And somehow, I also ended up paying for half of my parents' lives. I'm the one who fixed their front door when my dad slammed it so hard the frame cracked during a fight with my mom. I changed the locks when my sister broke up with her ex and couldn't afford a locksmith. I put new deadbolts on Grandma's house when she got sick and Mom panicked about strangers breaking in. I didn't charge them for any of it. Not once. They're family, right? That's what I kept telling myself. The first crack showed up at Sunday dinner last year. Just the four of us around the table at my parents' place. Roast chicken, potatoes, the same old table I'd done homework on as a kid. Dad poured himself another glass of wine and looked at me over the rim. "You know you're lucky, Gary," he said. "If it wasn't for us, you'd still be cutting spare keys in the back of some hardware store." I put my fork down. "I built the business, Dad." He snorted with my tools. "My van. Don't forget who gave you your start." Mom reached over and touched his arm. "He's just sensitive. Ignore him." My sister Lauren smirked, swirling her wine. "Come on, Mom. Gary always acts like he did it all alone. He forgets who his family is until he needs something." That made me laugh. Sharp and humorless. "When have I needed anything from you?" She blinked like she honestly couldn't think of a single example. "Well, you will. When Dad's gone, when the house is ours, when Grandma's money comes through, you'll be glad we took care of everything." There was this weird silence after she said that. Dad gave her a look like she'd said too much. Mom cleared her throat and changed the subject to some neighbor's new baby. I didn't push it, but that was the first time I realized there was a whole conversation happening about money and hours that I wasn't being invited to, and it was definitely not the last. For context, I've been on my own since I was 19. Dad kicked me out after an argument about college. I wanted trade school. He wanted me to man up and just work with him. I did both day shifts with him, night classes, paid my own rent in a tiny basement studio that smelled like mold and cigarette smoke. When he retired at 55, he sold me the business. Translation: he signed the paperwork, putting it in my name, and then guilt me into giving him a small monthly thank you. That thank you was a bigger chunk of my income than I'd ever admit out loud. "Just until I get my pension sorted," he said. That was 8 years ago. Mom worked part-time at a salon and full-time at playing referee. My sister Lauren floated from one job to another like it was a hobby. Yoga instructor, social media manager, wellness consultant. She always had new clothes, new phone, new vacations, brand deals. She'd say like that explained why my parents' credit cards were always maxed out. Anytime something went wrong, I got the call. "Gary, the lock on the back door is sticking. Can you swing by?" "Gary, your sister's locked herself out of her car again." "Gary, could you cover the gas bill this month?" "Your father's check was short." Always followed by, "We'll pay you back. You know we're good for it. We're family." I kept a spreadsheet of what they owed me at first. Then I stopped because watching the number climb made me feel sick. It wasn't just little things. It was the time I paid 3 months of their mortgage, so the bank wouldn't get the wrong idea. It was the time I co-signed a loan, so Dad could finally get the truck he deserved. When Grandma got sick 2 years ago, I was the only one who visited her regularly. She lived across town in this small brick house with an old brass deadbolt and a chain on the inside she refused to remove. "You're the only one who knows how to work that thing," she'd joke, watching me flip it open in one smooth motion. I brought her groceries, fixed her squeaky windows, installed a peephole so she could see who was at the door. Lauren showed up twice. Once for an Instagram photo in Grandma's garden, once to complain about the Wi-Fi. My parents, they'd pop in if there was a doctor appointment or some paperwork to sign. One night, while I was changing the cylinder on her front door, Grandma shuffled up next to me with a folder in her hands. Her fingers shook as she opened it. "I've updated my will," she said. "Don't make that face. I'm old, not stupid. I wiped my hands on my jeans. You don't have to show me that." "I want to." She tapped the first page. "The house goes to you." I blinked. "What?" "No, it should go to Mom." She shook her head firmly. "Your mother will sell it and hand every penny to your father and your sister. You're the one who keeps this place standing. You're the one who shows up." I didn't argue because I knew she was right. "I also set aside some savings for you," she added quietly. "For your business, new van, new tools, something that's yours, not theirs." I felt this weird mix of gratitude and dread. "Mom and Dad are going to lose their minds," I muttered. Grandma smiled, small and tired. "Then maybe they should have visited more." She passed 6 months later. The funeral was awkward. Mom cried loudly, clutching Lauren. Dad did the stoic thing. I carried Grandma's photo, led people to their seats, made sure the caterer got paid. Afterward, in the parking lot, Dad clapped me on the shoulder. "Don't worry about the boring legal stuff," he said. "Your mother and I will handle the estate. You just focus on the business." I heard the emphasis, "on way." I also remembered Grandma's folder. Grandma already talked to me about it. I said she wanted me to have the house. Dad's hand tightened. She was confused at the end. She said a lot of things. Mom nodded too quickly. "Honey, you know she wasn't herself." I pulled out my phone and opened the email from Grandma's lawyer, the one she'd seen me on months before she died. She was clear. I said, "This is from her attorney. I'm on the copy." Lauren rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Gary, you're really going to argue over a house? You make good money. Just let Mom and Dad have some security." "I've been paying their security for years," I said before I could stop myself. Dad's face hardened. "Careful," he said softly. "You don't want to sound ungrateful." A week later, I found out there was going to be a probate hearing. I wasn't invited to the first meeting with the lawyer. Mom forgot to tell me the date. I found out from a voicemail the lawyer left on my business phone asking why I hadn't signed some preliminary documents they'd sent through the family. When I called Mom, she sounded offended. "Well, we just assumed you were too busy to deal with paperwork," she said. "We were going to figure out the best plan for everyone and then loop you in." Best plan for everyone in my family always meant best plan for Lauren and Dad. I drove over that night. There were fresh locks on Grandma's front door. Not the ones I installed. Cheap, shiny, keto-like junk from the hardware store. My keys no longer worked. Neighbors told me my dad had changed them the day before to keep vandals out. Standing on that porch holding dead keys in my hand, it hit me. They weren't locking out vandals. They were locking out me. The next morning, I stopped being the good son. I took a day off work, something I never do, and went straight to the lawyer whose name was on Grandma's email. He remembered me instantly. "Glad you came in," he said, shuffling through a stack of files. "I was wondering why your parents were trying so hard to simplify the estate." He slid a folder across the desk. It was Grandma's original will. My name on the house, my name on a savings account. Clear as day. Then he pulled out another document. "This," he said, "is what your parents asked me to file instead." It was a revised version, supposedly written just weeks before Grandma died. Everything now split 3 ways between Mom, Dad, and Lauren. My name only showed up in a single line about sentimental items. The signature at the bottom looked wrong, too shaky. The wrong flourish on the G. I'd watched Grandma sign birthday cards my whole life. She'd never made her G like that. "Did you witness her sign this?" I asked. The lawyer grimaced. "No, your father brought it in already signed and notarized by a friend of his. I refused to file it without speaking with you first. That's why I left those voicemails." I laughed this short, disbelieving sound. Of course, Dad had a friend who'd notarize anything for a favor. "Can you prove it's fake?" I asked. He shrugged. handwriting experts, medical records about her state of mind on that date. The fact you have older emails. It's not nothing. He paused. But I'll be honest. Probate court hates drama. They like clean stories. United families. We both knew mine wasn't that. I went home and sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, my phone, and 10 years of resentment. I went through every bank statement where I'd covered their mortgage. Every transfer labeled mom rent or dad truck. Every message where they promised to pay me back or said things like, the house will be yours one day anyway. So what's the difference? By midnight, I had a small stack of printed screenshots and a headache. I wrote a letter, not some emotional rant, just dates, amounts, promises. The fact that Grandma had emailed both me and her lawyer. The fact that my parents tried to file a last-minute change without involving me. At the end, I wrote one sentence that felt like closing a door. If the court chooses to honor the forged document, I formally withdraw from all informal financial support of my parents and sister. I will not be funding their lifestyle based on an inheritance that was supposed to help me recover the costs I've already carried. I emailed a copy to the lawyer. He called me the next day. This is a thorough. He said, "Are you sure you want to go this route? It'll make things messy." They already made it messy. I said, "I'm just not cleaning it up for them anymore." He sighed. "All right, I'll submit it to the court as your statement." 2 weeks later, we all ended up in the same wood panel courtroom. That's where the line "you gave me" actually happened. Dad stood with his hand on Lauren's shoulder like he was presenting her for a prize. Mom sat ramrod straight next to them. Pearls on, face pinched. I was alone on the other side in my work pants and a button-down that still smelled faintly like WD-40 no matter how many times I washed it. Dad glanced back at me and smirked. "You'll never touch that money again," he muttered under his breath. Lauren added without turning around. "That's right." Mom didn't even look at me. She just said, quiet but clear, "He doesn't deserve a cent." I felt my jaw clench, but I didn't answer. The judge walked in. Everyone rose. The usual routine. He flipped through the files, asked a few standard questions, and then paused. He picked up a stapled set of pages and squinted. His mouth twitched. "This must be the letter," he said. Mom frowned. "What letter?" The judge didn't answer her. He opened it, scanned it quickly, and then, no exaggeration, he laughed. An actual quick bark of laughter in the middle of that heavy, dead quiet room. He shook his head and said almost to himself, "Oh, this is good." My parents finally looked nervous. "Your Honor," Dad said. "What's going on?" The judge leaned back. "Mr. and Mrs. Collins," he said slowly, "your son has just provided a very detailed financial history of the last decade, including evidence that the deceased explicitly intended to compensate him for those costs through this property and savings account." Lauren shot me a look like I'd just stabbed her. Mom's face went white. The judge continued, voice calm but firm. "Given the discrepancies between the original will on file and the recent document your friend notarized combined with your son's evidence, I am ordering a handwriting analysis and a temporary freeze on any transfer of assets." Dad sputtered, "This is ridiculous. He's trying to punish us." The judge raised an eyebrow. "From where I'm standing, Mr. Collins, it looks like he's simply trying to stop being your bank." For the first time in my life, someone in authority said out loud what I'd been feeling for years. And my family looked terrified. Everything after that moved fast and slow at the same time. Fast because the legal stuff exploded. Slow because my emotions didn't keep up with it. A few days after the hearing, Dad called me. I let it go to voicemail. His voice came through tight, controlled. "Gary, you need to retract that letter. You've embarrassed us. This is a family matter, not a court spectacle. Call me back and we'll sort this out like adults." Like adults. The same man who forged his mother-in-law's wanted to sort this out like adults. I didn't call back. Instead, I called my bank. I removed my parents as emergency contacts. I closed the joint credit card I'd stupidly opened with Mom just for emergencies. I can-led the auto transfer I'd been sending to Dad every month for his retirement. The first month that payment didn't arrive. He texted, "Where's the money?" Don't be petty. We raised you. I replied with a screenshot of my letter's last paragraph. He didn't respond. Lauren was more dramatic. She blew up my phone with messages. I can't believe you do this to Mom. Grandma loved all of us. You're twisting everything. After everything we've done for you, I typed and deleted 5 different replies before finally sending one sentence. Change your own locks from now on. She read it and didn't answer. Work became my safe place. It's funny. I spent years opening doors for other people. Now every time I fit a new cylinder or rekeyed an office, it felt like a quiet reminder that I could close some, too. My regulars noticed I was quieter, more focused. One old customer, Mr. Patel, watched me replace his storefront deadbolt and said, "You look tired, Gary." Family. I laughed. Is it that obvious? He shrugged. Family is always obvious. You fix locks, but people always try to sneak in where they're not invited. 2 months after the hearing, the handwriting expert filed his report. The revised will was declared invalid. The date didn't match. Grandma's medical records. She'd been in the hospital, heavily medicated the day they claimed she'd signed it. The signature had inconsistencies. The notarization was creative. The judge restored the original will. The house was mine. The savings account, too. Mom called, sobbing. "How could you do this to us?" She cried. "We were counting on that house for our retirement. Your father already told everyone we'd be moving there." I sat on my couch, phone on speaker, staring at the blank TV screen. Grandma told me that house was for me. I said, "She told you to. You just didn't like it." "That's not the point." Mom snapped, the tears disappearing like a switch. "We're your parents. You're supposed to take care of us." "I have," I said quietly, "for 10 years with my money, my time, my business." This, I gestured around even though she couldn't see, was supposed to help me get out from under that. "You tried to take it too." A long pause. "You're being dramatic," she said finally. "We never asked you for anything." I actually laughed. "I have the bank statements, Mom. And the texts." The judge saw them. "Why are you keeping score?" she demanded. "That's not what family does." "That's exactly what family does when the other side pretends the scoreboard doesn't exist." She hung up on me for a while. There was radio silence. No Sunday dinners. No. "Can you swing by and look at the lock?" No frantic calls about Lauren's latest breakup. It felt weirdly peaceful. I spent weekends at Grandma's house instead, cleaning out closets, repainting walls, fixing the stuff Dad ignored for years. I found old photos of her as a young woman grinning on that same porch. I found recipes written in her neat handwriting. I found a small envelope with my name on it tucked into the back of her wardrobe. Inside was a note. "If they make this house a battlefield, remember you don't have to stay and fight in their way. You can lock the door and walk away. Love, Gran." I sat on the bedroom floor and cried for the first time since all this started. Not big dramatic sobs, just quiet, exhausted tears. Outside of all that, life got better. I hired an extra tech for the business, so I wasn't on call every night. I upgraded my van like Grandma wanted. I stopped taking jobs that paid in exposure or favors and started valuing my time. I made friends outside of work, guys from the gym, a barista from the coffee shop who knew my order by heart, a neighbor who asked for help assembling furniture and paid me in pizza and beer, but also respect. One of my cousins, Jenna, reached out unexpectedly. She sent a DM on social media. "Hey, I heard some wild stuff from your mom about you stealing the house." Then Amelia filled me in. "Just wanted to say, I'm sorry, and I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself." We met for lunch a week later. She admitted the family group chat had been a mess of gossip and victim stories about me. "They say you're cold," she said, stirring her drink, "that you're abandoning them." I shrugged. "I changed the locks." She snorted. "Yeah, they hate that." Dad eventually sent one more message. "We're very disappointed in you. When we're gone, you'll regret how you're acting." I stared at it for a long time. For once, I didn't feel that old shame or panic. Just relief. I typed back. "When you're gone, I'll miss the idea of the parents I wanted. not the ones who try to rob me. He left me, on read. Last I heard, they're renting a smaller place closer to Lauren. The bank finally said no when they tried to refinance the old house they were totally about to inherit. Lauren posted something vague on Instagram about toxic people stealing what's yours. All her friends commented things like, "You deserve better, babe." I didn't bother defending myself. The people who matter already know the truth. The rest can stay locked out. A few weeks ago was the final probate check-in. Just a quick administrative thing to confirm the transfer was complete. Walking into that same courtroom felt different this time. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't waiting for my parents to throw a scene. They didn't even show up. Their lawyer handled it quietly, clearly done with the whole mess. When the judge signed the last paper, he glanced at me. "You doing all right, Mr. Collins?" he asked. I thought about lying, saying, "Yeah, fine. Thanks," and walking out. Instead, I said, "I'm getting there." He nodded. "Families and money," he said. "I see it every day. For what it's worth, drawing a line doesn't make you a bad son. It makes you a sane adult." I carried that with me all the way to Grandma's house. I stood on the porch, keys in my hand, my keys to my lock, and realized something simple. For years, I've been terrified that if I stopped paying, stopped fixing, stopped rescuing, I'd lose my family. Then I stopped. And yeah, I lost them. But I also lost the constant anxiety of my phone buzzing with demands. I lost the sick feeling in my stomach every time I checked my balance after bailing them out. I lost the twisted little voice that said, "You owe them everything." In its place, there's a quiet, "I'm still getting used to." Now when my phone rings, it's usually a customer, a friend, a cousin, someone who wants my time and is willing to respect it. I still fix locks for a living. I still drive the van. I still carry a ring of keys heavy enough to bruise my hip. The difference is I'm not trying to earn love with every turn of the wrench. People ask if I'll ever reconcile with my parents. Maybe if they ever apologize without adding a but. If they ever admit what they did. If they ever show up without expecting a check, a favor, a free repair. Until then, my boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. From now on, if someone wants into my life, they don't get a copy of the key just because we share blood. They show me they can knock, wait, and come in with respect. Grandma used to say, "A good lock doesn't keep good people out. It keeps the wrong ones from walking in like they own the place." For the first time in my life, I finally understand what she meant. I'm not the family ATM. I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the kid they can guilt into paying their bills because you'll get it all back one day. That day came, they tried to steal it, and I walked out of that courtroom with more than a house and a savings account. I walked out with proof that I was never crazy, never selfish, never ungrateful. I was used. Now I'm done. I changed the locks, and this time the only person with a master key is